So now that I've owned an electric car for 3 years, would I ever go back to a petrol car? And the answer is hopefully not. And here are the reasons why. The biggest reasons why I prefer an electric car over a petrol car is Sundays, when you're at home having a bit of a veg and you suddenly have to remind yourself that you've got a long week of work ahead and you've petrol tanks on empty and now you have to drive out and fill up your car. Pain in the butt. And the fact that you can just go, oh, I've got a long week ahead, I've only got 28% battery and I just plug it in. Much better mentally for me on a Sunday than having to drive around trying to fill up the car. Obviously, there are potentially environmental benefits of electric cars over petrol cars, but that's not always the case, so you can't always use that as a reason. Price-wise, look, pricing is kind of weird when you talk about cars because people say, oh, look, electric cars are so much more expensive to buy initially than a petrol car. But the thing is, if you really wanted the cheapest car of any sort, you just buy the cheapest car. But why do people not always buy the cheapest car? Because they like certain features, they like the badge on the front, they like different things. So money can't be the only thing, because if that was, no one would buy a Porsche, no one would buy a Ferrari, no one would buy a Maserati, no one would buy anything expensive, because if you all cared about was money, then I think you just buy the cheapest car, whether it's petrol or electric, and it's super likely to be petrol. The other benefit of electric cars is because there's no fuel-based motor, you don't have to service it much. So it saves you money in that way. You don't have to spend take a day off potentially to take your car to a service place. So that's good. Some of the cons of having an electric car, there are a few, so don't get me wrong, it's not a perfect solution right now. Number one is the fact that you don't know how long your battery is going to last. And if you actually physically have to replace the battery because it's not holding charge, that's going to suck. It's going to cost you thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, which you're not going to have to do with a fuel, like a petrol-based car. The other thing is when you're on vacation, when superchargers are hard to find, when you're going on long trips where the range of the car is not ideal, that can sometimes suck. When you're on vacation, superchargers are often busy, they're often quite far apart, and you get this range anxiety thing going on where you don't know that your car's going to make it to the next stop. And nobody wants to spend half an hour charging a car when you're on a long drive, where you can just spend 2 minutes filling it up with a normal petrol car. So there are things to think about, but in general, I think that if at all possible, I don't think that I would go for another petrol car. Your mileage literally might vary. See you next time.